this time, I'm going to go ahead and call to order our November 24th, 2020 work session to order, and I'll ask the Mr. Denusa to call the roll.
Okay. Hold on a second. Dr. Lee,
Here.
Miss Walden,
Here.
Shinholster,
Maybe her coming in the back door.
Mr. Reynolds,
Here.
Mr. Mullins,
Here.
Mr. Chambers.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum present, so at this time, I'm going to turn over into the hands of the city manager, Mr. Griffith. Hank Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got a couple of pieces of information to share with y'all and see if there's any discussion on your part. First of all, we are having the second reading of Ordinance 02011-14 tonight, the ordinance dealing with renaming city streets and facilities. This was an ordinance that had its first reading 2 weeks ago and was included in your packet at that time. There's been one slight change to it since then that I want to make sure that you saw as you read through it in your book for this meeting. The previous draft just simply made the statement that the mayor and city council would offer the opportunity for public input. In talking with some of y'all, we thought that maybe we might need to be a little bit more formal with that. So on page 4, F2 was changed to the mayor and city council will offer the opportunity for public input on the proposed renaming by holding a public hearing. And then we went into the process of the public hearing. It's very similar to the process for the public hearing for rezoning, except obviously it won't go before the zoning commission first, and it will come to you as a governing body. But this gives the opportunity for public notice and also the opportunity to have a formal hearing in front of mayor and council prior to these decisions being made. This coupled with the fact that was in the previous draft that at least 75% of those people affected by a street renaming would have to sign a petition stating they support that. We feel like between those two things, that should give the public ample opportunity to know that a renaming is being considered by mayor and council after it has been vetted through all of the other processes that are included in that ordinance. So I just wanted to bring that up to you, point it out to you, see if anyone had any questions about anything in the ordinance, either from the draft that you received 2 weeks ago or this change that we made in this draft.
I read it and it looked good to me. I like the change of public hearing.
Okay. All right. Well, that will be the draft that you all will vote on tonight if you choose to. Secondly, I wanted to give you an update on, we had been having some discussions about what I term speed control devices on a number of our streets in the city limits. That's just a fancy way to say speed bump or speed hump, but we are continuing to look at those on Reeves Circle, Turkey Run, Doles Boulevard, and while we haven't gotten to the point of looking at what type of speed control devices, we are looking at traffic patterns on Lakeside Drive. Mr. Thomas put together some estimates for me in the last couple of weeks, and if we did prefabricated speed humps that are basically the rubber prefab ones with installation, those would be running somewhere around $2,168 a piece. If we did built on site asphalt ones, those would be around $3,500 per. So I'm looking at the possibility of probably, at least initially, utilizing the prefab ones from a cost-saving standpoint, but also because they are much easier to remove if for some reason we had to go back and take them up later on. So that's most likely what we will utilize. I will bring you a final report on Reeves Circle and Turkey Run at the next meeting. We will continue to look at Doles Boulevard and Lakeside. I want to talk some more to Ms. Shinholster about Doles Boulevard, since that's her district and she brought those up. And then I also want to wait until the county annex gets its main drive in the front open before we decide exactly what we're going to do with Lakeside, because that could affect how things are directed with the drive that comes out on Lakeside from the county annex. But one of the things that became very obvious when we were going through this exercise is that our speed trailer that the police department has is worn out, and it really does not give us the data that we need anymore and in the future to really look at traffic patterns and traffic speeds. So Chief Swikert and I have been having a conversation about the possibility of purchasing a new one of those that could also serve as an LED sign trailer for public works or utility maintenance and those areas if necessary. So we may very well see if we can get a new one of those before we make any major decisions on Lakeside and Doles as well. But I'll bring you the final information on Reeves and Turkey Run, because those are the two we currently have petitions signed on at the December 8th meeting, and we will go forward from there. Any questions or comments about those?
When you brought this up before, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We can hear you well, Ms. Walden.
Can you hear us, Ms. Walden?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, you brought this up in the council meeting a couple of months ago. I told you Pumping Station Road needed something, and I need something on Pine Avenue because they are flying on that road. They ran through a Roman's yard the other night. A car couldn't make a turn, and I mean, they really do speed through there. And I mentioned that to you then. Did you not check on anything for Pumping Station Road where all the college kids are?
We looked at Pumping Station Road. The length of it may cause some problems with doing something there, but I'll look on that. Tell me the second one, because we did not look at it.
Pine Avenue,
okay.
And maybe then going down Nelson Road or something where it'll slow them down. But I mean, they don't really go through the neighborhood because they are coming out on Pumpkin Station, but they do not stop at that stop sign.
Okay.
When they come out of there.
All right, I will put those in the mix to look at as well, especially Pine, and maybe see if we could do something.
Pine has really gotten mad.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? I'll add those, Ms. Walden, and we'll look at them.
Okay, because we need some on this side of town. We really do.
Hank, I've got some information that Frank had put together several years ago. It's not necessarily pertinent just to Lakeside, but one of the things that was strongly indicated in its Department of Transportation guidelines, and that is putting down 3 so that you have 3 in a row.
Right. And that's what we're looking at doing on Reeves and Turkey Run.
Okay, all right. You hadn't made mention of that, and I just wanted to make sure, because one does not do anything.
Sure.
Other than make people speed up on the other side.
They want to make up for lost time once they get on the other side of it.
Oh, yeah, if they got to slow down for that, then they're going to cut it on the other side. But if they know another one's coming up and then another one's coming up, you know,
And that's part of our problem on Pumping Station. When I mentioned that one was such a short stretch, that's part of our problem and the curvature of it. But we'll continue to look at that one as well. But you have to have, by the way, let me back up and say the prices that I gave you for both the prefab and the asphalt ones also included signage. We obviously have to have signage to mark these things, so that's the reason they may seem a little bit high, is because that does include signage as well. So.
Well, I think that you're going down the right road, especially as we kind of go into this with our eyes wide open, but also not knowing exactly what kind of results we're going to get out of it. Is that even though you have people that are willing to sign petitions and so on and so forth, when you put something down, it sometimes means something different, and they're all of a sudden willing to sign another petition. And that's to get them back up. And we've seen that in years past, especially putting rumble strips down. And they just end up making too much noise. People get tired of them, so on and so forth. But if you do that, then you can, if you had enough, you take them up, you can put them somewhere else where they're more appreciated.
Right. The prefab ones obviously do not have quite the lifespan that the built on site asphalt ones would, but when you build them on site, you dig up the road that's there and you get down to base dirt and all of those things, and so they are difficult to take up. So, but Ms. Walden, I'll look at these 3 that pumping station that you told me about before, and then Pine Avenue and Nelson Road tonight. But we definitely will bring you a plan for Reeves Circle and Turkey Run at the December 8th meeting. I emailed you all yesterday a graphic of a channelizing island for the intersection of Montgomery and Liberty. After the MVA with the pedestrian in January near that intersection, Georgia College did a signal warrant study, and the warrant came back that the need for a placement of a Hawk system, which is a high-intensity activated crosswalk system, would be good for that crosswalk that crosses Montgomery Street at Liberty. Frank Ball, who is here tonight and can answer any questions that I can't, contacted me, and once DOT went through their approval, they decided that there needed to be some channelizing of traffic coming onto and off of Montgomery from Liberty. And there were 2 options basically to make that section of Liberty between Montgomery and Thomas one way going north, or to do the channelizing island, and I felt like the channelizing island would probably be a better option. So this island would allow for right in, right out, and left in only traffic at that intersection of Montgomery and Thomas. I can share my screen with y'all, but you probably will not be able to tell a whole lot about it. But just to try to help you remember what it was I'm talking about. the area that's in the blue hashes just about middle of that page is the actual channelizing island. You see that there would have to be some additional hash marks added on the north side of Montgomery as cars turned out of Liberty onto Montgomery. And I think that's necessary, isn't it, Frank? Because that radius will need to be expanded a little bit, won't it, for that traffic to be able to turn out on Montgomery. But I wanted you to have this information this week. We will be, Frank and I will be working together to put together a draft MOU between the city of Milledgeville and Georgia College to bring before you at the December 8th meeting for you all to vote for the mayor to have approval to sign that MOU if you also choose. The work will be 100% funded by Georgia College, and this would be in conjunction with the Hawk system being installed for the crosswalk that is to the east of Liberty Street on Montgomery. If you're not familiar with the Hawk system, basically what that is a system where a pedestrian mashes a button when they come to the crosswalk or the intersection. There's some flashing yellow lights to let motorists know that red lights are about to come. The lights turn red. The pedestrian gets a walk signal. And then after the pedestrian has crossed, the red light turns to green to allow vehicular traffic to pass through. And of course, the cycle starts all over again the next time a pedestrian comes to cross the street. One of these is also currently being installed by DOT at the crosswalk on Hancock in front of Magnolia Ballroom or the old First Methodist Church. And it actually is going to work in conjunction with the barn dance. And yes, that is not the formal name of it. I can't even remember what the formal name, but the barn dance that DOT is installing at the intersection of Clark and Hancock. And both of those two systems will work together to hopefully move pedestrians more quickly and more safely between the intersection and the crosswalk there on Hancock Street in front of Magnolia Ballroom. But does anybody, I know you just saw this yesterday after I sent it to you, but does anybody have any questions at this point in time about the potential channelizing island for Montgomery and Liberty?
I do.
Okay.
A couple months ago, didn't Georgia College come to us and was saying something about closing Liberty when they was doing the parking lot? Is that no more?
When Mr. Jarrett was still city manager, Georgia College talked with him, and I don't know if he ever actually brought it to y'all or not, about the potential of them taking ownership of that block of North Liberty Street, and most likely including it as part of their parking lot and parking system, which meant they would also pick up some right-of-way parking that they're currently using. I would think, and Frank, help me out, I would think that may still possibly be on the table for a discussion with Georgia College, if you all would like for me to start that discussion with them to see if we can come to some conclusion on it.
It was brought before us, Hank,
Okay.
just as a discussion item. We never acted on it or carried it any further.
Well, I suspect if that occurred, then that would negate the need for this channelizing island, because most likely you all would have all of the traffic coming in from Thomas Street on Liberty if you did that, wouldn't you, Frank, most likely?
Right, yeah, but I think the college would be very open to discussing, acquiring that right away.
Okay. All right. So that's something, if you all will maybe just email me your thoughts about that, that we may do that as opposed to doing the channelized island. I was not in on the specific conversations about that when Mr. Jarrett was here, so some of y'all may need to bring me up to speed. But I don't even know if the potential for a conveyance price or anything like that, if y'all got far enough to talk about the potential for a conveyance price or anything like that. That answer your question, Dr. Lee?
Yes, go ahead.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Thank you. It did.
I'll come up and talk to you, Mr. Griffith, because there was a little bit more. I went up and talked to Barry one day about it, so I'll come up and talk with you about it one day.
Okay. Yeah, I think you were making the same comment, Ms. Shinholster.
Yes, it was a little bit more than that.
Okay.
So I'll talk with you about it too as well.
All right, thank you.
I guess I have a question about that Hawk system you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Would it be in conjunction with the red lights at Montgomery and Wilkerson or Montgomery and Clark or something like that? Because, I'm looking at maybe, a certain time you're going to have a whole lot of traffic going on, and it's going to be traffic just blocked, just lined up on that hill where we've been having a problem with trucks trying to take off on that hill coming up Montgomery going west.
Right. Did y'all have a
so I guess that's
discussion
my
with
question.
GDOT, Frank, about whether it would?
Yes, sir. The GDOT actually is considering a similar all pedestrian phase barn dance at Montgomery and Wilson Street that would be synchronized with that mid-block crosswalk. So once that new integrated science building is open and they can get an accurate, pedestrian counts for they have to do another traffic study, but I think DOT is notionally planning to do a similar, be a mirror image of the Clark and Hancock type configuration.
But the Hawk system that we're talking about here would most likely be installed prior to that.
Right, that's correct.
That traffic moving system. So based on that, Mr. Mullins, I would say this initial Hawk system would not be cycled with either one of the intersections on the east or west end of that block, but could possibly be in the future.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions or comments? Like I said, I know y'all just got this yesterday, but please let me know if you have questions, and if I can't answer them, I'm sure Frank can. And I will have a conversation with you all that will share with me the potential for conveyance of that block of Liberty Street to Georgia College as the conversation ensued previously. So I just have one other thing, Mayor, as part of my report, and that is we have a work session and a meeting scheduled for December 8th, which would be our normal meeting day. And our next meeting would be on December 22nd. Is it you all's pleasure to cancel the December 22nd meeting since it's so close to the holidays? Mr. Chambers said, "Don't cancel it, keep it." Is that what the down meant?
That's canceled.
Oh, okay, cancel. Obviously, if that's your pleasure, we'll need to bring that to you in a resolution at the December 8th meeting. So if that's y'all's pleasure, we will put that resolution together and have it in your packet for December 8th. Mayor, that's all I have. I think we do have the need to go into closed session for some pending litigation and personnel matters, but that's all I have unless someone has a question for me.
One comment. Hey, Frank.
Hey, pretty.
All right, then, if there's no further discussion, I'll move for a motion for us to go into closed session pending litigation and personnel matter.
So move.
Second.
It's been motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Dr. Lee? Ms. Walden?
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we will go from our our regular open session into closed session. And Mr. Griffin, I guess you'll make sure that everybody is departing the room.
Yes, ma'am, we will.
Dr. Lee? Ms. Walden? Ms. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
All right, this time we'll reconvene back into our regular session. Were we taking a vote on something, or is that the next meeting, Mr.?
No votes here, next meeting.
Okay, all right, so there's nothing further to discuss at this time. Meeting will be adjourned.